Welcome to RunRate. I'm Kyle Widrick. I'm here with Hank Medina, also known as AKA Litquidity.
What's up, Kyle? It's good to be here.
What's up, man? Great to be here. Excited for the pod. This is the podcast that I wish existed 10 years ago. Everything to do with venture capital, private markets, what happens behind the scenes at Wall Street. Just talking behind closed doors like we can because we're in the industry. I think, Hank, for this to resonate with people, you might have to show your face, though.
Yeah, you mean like me going on camera?
If there was a time, this is it, man. The audience needs it. They want to see you.
Yeah, well, hopefully everyone here is tuning in through Spotify audio. But let's just make sure that I look good. So give me 1 sec while I comb my hair and get my watch looking nice.
Should we do a drum roll?
Let's do it. Phineas, hit it. Welcome to RunRate.
Hank, good to see you.
You too.
In New York, New York.
It's great to be here. It's extra cold and makes me miss Miami a little extra.
Yes, excited to kick off the pod, the RunRate pod. I think the best place to start is to get a little bit deep on your background. Most people know you as Litquidity. Maybe start with that, kind of where that got started, how you got into that.
I'll say that I was very deep in the Wall Street culture coming out of college. I was an investment banking analyst. All of my friends were, and I just lived and breathed everything, that had to do with just a young 20-something-year-old making his way in New York, ranking banks, who's the best, thinking about private equity as the next step, and everyone's like following the same path, and then realized why not just make fun of this whole industry, capturing this because everyone that I was talking to was in the same thing. So, one day I decided to make an Instagram account. I was
This is while you were still at the bank.
Yes. Yeah. So, we were just pre-gaming at my friend's apartment. I said, you know what? I'm just going to make an Instagram account and start making memes, not knowing the first thing about how to make one. And made it like 3 a.m., the night we went out, forgot about it, woke up hungover in bed, and it was like, choose your name. All right. So I had no idea where to go with this. And it just sort of came to me, with financial terms, playing with words. Litquidity struck, and I knew that's the one I'm going to stick with. And
nice.
So it's just been like that ever since. And yeah.
And how did it transition forward? I've started a few businesses now, but before that, I had a side project or got into something that didn't take off. After that night at 3 a.m., good idea, interesting name. When did it start to get traction? When did you have like a real substance to it?
I started posting like once a week, and this was before stories on Instagram. So that was back in 2017. I just added everyone that I knew or followed, like a business fraternity account. Followed Goldman Sachs on Instagram. I don't know who does that, but I just sort of said they might be interested in the content I'm putting out. And it was like a constant snowball of engagement, putting out some satirical things, drawing upon like whatever was pissing me off that week at work. And people started tagging each other, hey, you got to follow this. This is funny. And at the time it was like pretty niche because most of the meme pages on Instagram were just like general broad focused things that, can relate to, I don't know, mainly like teenagers. So I wanted something a little more niche that resonated with me, and that just happened to be things like EBITDA and credit.
There's a few others, right? There's praying for exit. There's like Are you friendly with these other meme accounts, or are they competitive with you?
A little bit of both.
Beef? Is there any beef on the?
I won't get too deep into the beef. I've largely put that behind me. felt like, high school dynamics when we were all like emerging
Okay.
and posting content and, oh, you stole my idea, like how comedians can get about someone stealing a joke or whatever. But I actually like to think that, the same idea could be arrived independently, like how calculus was back in the day. So, I'd like to say like we're all pretty friendly now, and it's great, and we all get along, share things, and some have fallen off, but I'm still going and trying to build a real long-standing business and brand around it.
And was it kind of a steady momentum to get to where you're obviously, very big now, huge following? Did you do something controversial that kind of spiked things up, or was it just a steady climb from where you started to where it got to?
Most of the stuff was controversial, at least, towards the banks, because typically, like, employees would have to be anonymous, or strict social media policies that barred people, from posting about specifics going on at the banks, and people were just scared, right? They didn't want to lose their job. Meanwhile, I'm there like doing all this stuff anonymously, posting about what's going on at Goldman Sachs, or making fun of Deutsche Bank for firing like half their investment banking unit if like they were having a terrible stretch, and things like that, right? That just over the time, like
it's a little
couple
awkward.
years.
You're kind of like a whistleblower in a way, kind of inside talking about some of the issues that are going on inside.
Exactly, without it like getting personal, not like naming too many people, like by name, unless it's like the CEO or someone who's already a public figure, but just drawing light to like the plight of the analysts, what they're going through, the overwork, the stresses and things, and that really resonated, and that just drew attention from journalists, publications and whatnot, and those, like, after the articles would come out, would also lead to a boost. So it's just a mix of like consistent content and press that would just continue to compound. But I've never once bought any followers, which surprises people.
Sure. Well, I think it's the authenticity of the content that your followers appreciate, and so I think that's why you got to where you got to. One of the first times we met was at my house.
Yeah.
And it's a longer story, but there was a padel court that we had installed at my house. And right around that time, kind of right after that, one of the guys that was involved, I remember being worried that you were going to be outed. Because before that, you had the George Washington, the face. No one knew who you were. And I could imagine being on the inside, talking about what you're talking about, you had a little bit of anxiety about that, right? So I messaged you, we saved you from being outed, but shortly thereafter, you did end up coming out.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that, like how you decided to, and how you figured out the right timing to come out.
Yes, I did not come out in that way, but
coming out to where everybody said, you revealed yourself as the true face behind Litquidity.
Yeah, so that was a funny time, because just looking back at that now, I used to take extreme caution to make sure that someone wouldn't accidentally like include me in the background of a photo or something, and it just so happened that the court that was in your backyard was full of influencers who were posting and capturing content and whatnot, and lo and behold, there was a photo of me front and center, on the court hitting like a sexy shot, and then I saw it like just on Instagram once you pointed it out, and I'm like, oh shit, that is not good. We need that down, because then it could spread. This guy has followers, this and that, and luckily, it was contained. But the true like reveal of the identity came around that summer when a reporter at Business Insider had been sort of snooping around, trying to make an article about me. I heard from a couple of people saying, hey, like there's some guy who's looking around, trying to sniff out who you are, get some dirt or whatever. And, we didn't talk to him. So I'm like, all right, I knew my people would stick behind me. And eventually, I guess he found some people who would speak. And over the course of a couple months, he pieced together some sort of article that, he eventually said will be able to publish this. But
I think it's always Business Insider. Why are they always poking around?
They're a tabloid. At the end of the day, I have zero respect for them. I've gone after them several times, made them the butt of my joke. But all that's to say that since I knew that was coming, I had actually engaged the Financial Times because I had done a lunch with the FT earlier that summer and said, hey, like I'd love to have, a sort of, Financial Times cover this. I didn't think it would be a major moment.
Very legitimate publication, very, renowned publication, Financial Times.
I was like, look, I don't expect them to pick this up, but if it was of interest, I wanted to give them the proper look. I would be able or like willing to speak to them rather than Business Insider because, I took so many years of just wanting to keep this identity secret. And then to have it like blown by Business Insider, who I already had some beef with, was just like going to be the worst, outcome. So
it's hard to remember now, but thinking back, all of that influencer said, everyone was masked at that point.
Yeah.
No one was revealing identities. No one knew who anyone was. So it's interesting to think about it from today's perspective.
Yeah. So I eventually, it came out and there was the sort of initial buzz, people hitting me up on the phones. Hey, I was in your math class in middle school or high school, college, whatever you name it. Oh, I sit next to you, like random stuff, right? And then it died down because I didn't want to be a public figure. Some people seek that. I'm kind of just like in the background, a little quiet, like observing, taking notes, memeing, and just my whole thing is like working in the background, establishing a foundation like for a business, and we can get into that as well, which is kind of how we've kept in touch. But it's sort of just not in my nature to like be in the camera. But now that we're here, great to
we're here.
do it on our terms.
It feels like you have fun with it. I mean, do you have to stay on social 24/7 to manage? Because it's not just one account. I think we talked. You have several different accounts across the portfolio.
Yeah.
I don't even know what your followership today is. It's probably in the millions at this point, several million.
Yeah.
So keeping ahead of that, I'm sure there's some pressure to be relevant and current. I love your content. I think it's hilarious. But how do you? That's you personally. You manage all of it yourself?
Yeah, so the Litquidity account is personally managed. I do have a team that helps on Exec Sum, which is more of a news focused account, and then just constantly like looking to bring on people to delegate work. There's a bit of M&A that's happened, trying to acquire some accounts and really build a portfolio up, and it's all just a business at the end of the day. While sticking true to making good content, because no one really likes AI slop in the age of AI abundance, and that's the hard part.
That's a huge point. We were in East Hampton. I think we did the sauna and the cold plunge, and we were chatting about your business. One of the things I respect the most about you with your business is the fact that you do it yourself. You can't outsource that. That is what the business is, right? So being passionate about it because you lived it, right? You were the guy, you were the analyst in the iBank doing the thing, and that's what folks appreciate that follow you there. So transitioning to paddle, a lot of times I'm trying to get a hold of you, and you're playing paddle, so it's tough. I'm like, hey, Hank, where are you? I think you're on the amateur circuit. You're not a pro.
Sure.
But on the amateur circuit, I think you're pretty good. We'll talk about my paddle game later, but padel, it's an emerging sport. We've talked a little bit about also the fact that it's fun and a great place to get deals done.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So, where is paddle? How do you pronounce paddle? How often do you play?
Yeah, it's pronounced paddle.
Why do people say padel?
Padel is a mix of people trying to sound Spanish, but also, the same reason why people say finance in the field of finance. So I'd like to say, I'm not trying to be that guy, but also sticking true to saying paddle. That's it. But now being based in Miami, it is definitely a big part of the culture down there. The network I've built of investors, founders, entrepreneurs, etc. Like people just have gravitated towards that, and it's essentially like the new form of golf, and it's much quicker. It's more active. Don't get me wrong, I love golf, but paddle is just more of my speed. I grew up playing tennis, and yeah, it's the same like kind of thing that you do. You play and then you chit chat afterwards and get some deals done.
So are you the equivalent of like a scratch golfer at paddle?
I would say, perhaps, yeah. not to sound too cocky or whatnot, but
You've won tournaments,
yeah. It's great. It's like something that's just I love to play. I could play 4 hours a day, 7 days a week if I could. But the knees are starting to feel it, and I have to get work done. Can't delegate stuff when something's happening in the world of geopolitics or memes, and someone's got to get the tweets out. So it's great. It's been a great mix of everything. Blending business, exercise, health, wellness, all that good stuff. Which I think is just fantastic.
Let's talk a little bit about, I know Litquidity is where things started, and that's kind of the base of all of it, but you do have several businesses that kind of roll up into Lit.
Yep.
You have ExecSum, you have a recruiting business. Let's talk a little bit about the other businesses that are part of the group.
Yeah. So I'd say over the past few years, Litquidity I've sort of tried to position as an umbrella holding company, where that's the brand, that's the voice that people follow, what originally drew people to like and repost and all that stuff, and I've wanted to build an ecosystem around that, where it's people can get their laughs, they can get their news, they can get their next job, and they can find investment opportunities. And that's the where the business is right now through ExecSum, where it's a newsletter that people can stay informed in 5 minutes every morning. The recruiting business, Litany Partners, is primarily targeted to junior finance professionals to find the next investment banking job, private equity job, venture capital job, etc. Just like any headhunting firm, but we're not sleazy. And then you have Liquidity Ventures, which is actually something that we've overlapped a lot with in doing deals together, where I've really leaned into this part of the business in tapping into the founders who follow the page and get access to investment opportunities, whether it's the next hot AI startups, defense tech names, consumer brands. A lot of founders just happen to follow the page. They could be former bankers. They could just follow it because their friends follow it and they exchange memes. But it's actually just been like a cool way to understand venture capital is a very relationship driven game, as you know, and just being able to say, hey, love what you're building, and they are already familiar with the brand is great. So that's been a great way to build a portfolio and just have some long lasting brand value, because I don't know how long I could stay relevant or funny through Liquidity, but everyone's always looking for money and some sort of value add.
Yeah, I think now more than ever in venture, I've always thought about it this way, but you have the product and the vision of the product. You have the ability to execute against that product, and then you have the distribution, marketing, awareness. And so it really takes all three to have success. But I think founders are much more aware today that bucket three is very important. And so a lot of them, as you and I have seen, have opened up, call it community rounds to allow folks that can add value to come in on that allocation in these venture deals. And so, no, it's been a lot of fun partnering on some of the deals that we've done.
Yeah, we've got some good names, and I think the more that we do together, the more we provide value to the communities that we are representing and giving them access to. And I think part of the other thing is bringing people in person, really honing in on that kind of post-COVID, loneliness, people looking for things to do. And so if we can also bring people together in person, then that really ties the whole digital, community with the real life component.
Yeah, just don't expect too much out of my golf game or my paddle game. It's about the same. I'm like a 36 handicap golfer, and my paddle game's not
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
But
Well.
I have fun though. I'm a pace of play.
Yeah.
I can keep up. I can move. I keep things moving. So.
Well, it sounds like we'd have a very good time on the golf course because I'm the same. So. But I mean, have you picked up paddle at all?
Yeah. So I played the first time with you.
Yeah.
I have a buddy who owns a facility out in New Jersey. So I've played a few times since.
That's Paddle United, right?
Paddle United out in Tenafly. I'm athletic. I'm fast. I think I have all the capabilities actually to be decent, but I didn't grow up playing tennis. And so off the cage, I didn't play a lot of squash. I'm going to need some practice, but I
Sure.
enjoy playing.
Yeah.
It's fun to play. I'm more on the biohacking side.
Right.
We've talked a little bit about it, but I invested in Function Health early via Purposue Ventures, and then invested later in Blueprint. And I've tried and I use both products, but I'm a little bit of a nut on the biohacking side. So I get up at 5, usually in the morning.
Yeah, you're that guy.
I got in the ice baths for a little bit.
Sure.
I do the 72-hour fast once a quarter. And so I've really been down that rabbit hole, which really kicked off with Function and me getting my blood work done.
Yeah.
Started working with a doctor down in Miami. And so I stay up to speed on all things, kind of biohacking. But I aspire to be a better paddle player.
So how'd you get into all this biohacking stuff? Like, or
Really
have you always
investing.
been-
I did the diligence. So with Function, any company that I'm thinking about investing in, I always try. Whether it's a consumer product, we invested in the coconut cult. I'll try the yogurt, or Cove soda, try the soda. I think investors sometimes spend too much time being hypothetical. I like to literally go into the store, see the product, try the product, taste it. Does it taste good? These things matter, but if you get caught up in the spreadsheets and the numbers, you tend to miss it. And so with Function, I wanted to see how it worked. And so I signed up. It sounds great. $500 twice a year, blood panel. It's worth $15,000. I did it. And I think one of the clever things that Function did was, as a part of your blood work, they give you a biological age. Okay. And so I'm actually 42. On my blood work, it's like your biological age is 38. So then you feel amazing. You show all your friends at dinner. That really helped them spread, virally.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, I've seen that. I've never done it. I'd love to try it out. Yeah. I'm curious what my delta is from...
It's great.
Yeah.
They actually just partnered also with ChatGPT on the ChatGPT Health launch. They're a part of that stack. Yeah. So it's a tremendous company, but great value. That's what got me kicked off. We'll get into this, but previously I have a holding company that owns a cold plunge business with saunas. And so that kind of got me into that. And then Blueprint with Brian Johnson, have known of Brian, got a good opportunity to meet Brian. He's one of the ones who I think appreciates more than most the ability to bring investors in that can add strategic value. And so ended up investing in Blueprint. That's another product that I take daily, like his morning mix. And so you want to be, for me, if I'm going to invest, I want to be, especially on the consumer side, actually a customer and actually really excited about the product.
Right. Yeah. And so you got into, waking up at 5 a.m. and hitting the cold plunge because you wanted to invest in them, or was it just something that, hey, like now I gotta like live this life, or have you always been like a health conscious guy?
I think so. I'm in my 40s now. I think in my 30s, I was going out later. I was drinking more. So part of it's age. I have 3 kids now.
Okay.
So if I don't get up early, I just don't have the time to do the thing. So getting up early is basically by necessity. But the last couple of years in particular, partly by doing diligence on these companies and
Yep.
partly just because I want to be active and kind of get going in the morning, that's where it's really ramped up.
I think we've already kind of, covered most of my background, but I'm going to flip this all over to you because we've, covered some of your investing, and I feel like the audience should know, a bit more about your background. So you don't have like a traditional, Wall Street background. That was kind of like everything that I knew. Like, all right, you go to this school, then you do this job, then you go to HBS, then you do XYZ, right? Yours was a little more of a non-linear path. Could you get into a bit of, the background and then how you formed your holding company over the course of years and then got into Pari Passu?
Yeah, I could have used Litany Partners back when I was looking, but I never got into traditional banking. I grew up actually in a small town, upstate New York. And myself and my brothers, we were first generation college. And so went to college, did, finance, came out, actually worked in consulting for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I got lucky to work for a family office, this guy, Chris Birch. Worked for him for about 6.5 years. And tremendous opportunity, flying all over the world, going to China, meeting with his, billionaire set of friends.
Wow.
Got to watch the Tory Burch business go from 0 to 4 billion. And so really good, time spent, almost like a super MBA in consumer and retail.
Yeah.
And decided to leave. I just had enough. It was kind of a tough environment. He and I are still close, but kind of burn out of that. And the business that I started when I left was called BVA Commerce. And it was 2013, so super early Shopify days. And so with a partner, Dylan, we started BVA, right place, right time. Shopify was really on the rise. And so all the brands who wanted new websites and performance marketing, Kylie Cosmetics and MVMT watches, Mizzen and Main, all the way up to P&G and Red Bull, we were able to service them as an agency. And so we scaled that business to north of 100 people, pretty quickly. We ended up selling it. It's now owned by Accenture. And on the backside of that, kind of having invested in companies with Birch, then servicing businesses on the agency side, I wanted to kind of own and operate the businesses. And so I started a holding company called Win Brands Group. And we started buying brands. And so I raised about $100 million. We bought Homesick candles. We bought Gravity blankets.
Yeah.
We bought Kalo, which is a silicone accessory business. And so that portfolio today has done over $1 billion of sales across e-com, Amazon, and retail. So everyone from Walmart to Bloomingdale's, depending on the brand and the business. And so I've really been kind of in the kitchen making the sausage. And so when I look at these consumer businesses, I have a really strong point of view on how hard it is, right? I've been there. And so I transitioned to chairman of Win Brands about 1.5 years ago. I still sit on the board and still active in some ways there. But you and I connected more deeply on Pari Passu Venture Partners, ppvp.com. That's really the culmination of the last 20 years for me. All my relationships, all my access to be able to invest. I started investing myself into deals as an angel and started getting more and more deal flow and decided to kind of pull some people around it, put some structure around it. That's what, Pari Passu was built into. And fast forward, last year and the past couple of years have been fortunate to invest in Function Health early and Blueprint and Chaos and SpaceX, really incredible companies. And so our model is myself and my partners, we lead the deal and we invest first. And so we want to invest.
Right.
Then we have a community of investors who come in with us. And we also launched an app. And so all of those community members see the deals that we launch on the app. They get to participate with us on whatever level they want on any deal that they want. So it's deal by deal.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of things are changing in venture capital right now. It's a little bit of a new way to access venture. And so, really excited. We had a huge year last year and headed into this year. You and I have talked about this, but with AI, with all the changes that are happening, like this is the most exciting time in investing that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because I've totally see all of the trends around venture, and it's a theme that's just continuing to grow, like mainstream. Everyone hears about OpenAI raising at 800 billion valuation, or you've got SpaceX they're gonna IPO at 1.5 trillion, and all these like massive numbers for private companies that the vast majority of people can't even participate in. And it sucks. It's in the point of time we're at in society and economy and all this stuff, and everyone thinks they're going to be displaced by AI. At the very least, like, people should have the ability to put
Invest.
some
That's right.
invest, put some money into things that they think are going to grow, because companies aren't going public as the same clip that they used to be, and it's just causing a big have or have not. And so, not to sound like we're like the Robin Hoods of our generation, but Robin Hood's also doing this.
Sure.
It's something where we're trying to give access to people, and using the networks and platforms we have. And so I think it's incredible with all the experience you have in the consumer space, your relationships, your experience, and what you're doing clearly. And then for me, kind of sort of also started as an angel, didn't really know like the first thing about venture investing, and then I quickly learned it's a lot of vibes. I had to throw away the financial
Relationships,
models. Yeah,
vibes, it's momentum. There's, especially in today's market, it's vibes and signal, right? You can tell when a deal's hot.
yeah,
At the end of the day, on the company side, thinking back to, operating the business, you still have to execute, you still have to hit those numbers over time. But it's a super unique time to be investing. And I agree with you. I think democratizing access to these deals right now is something that you and I both feel strongly about.
yeah. Is there anything from your time with the Birch family office that has translated or carried over to your investing, thesis or acumen or whatnot?
Yeah, Chris, it was actually, I was talking about it today, and we'll probably, we should bring him on the pod. He'd be a good guest. He was very people driven with his investments and investing. His investment meeting was almost like a psychoanalysis of the person. Where did you grow up? Your parents, this, that. So
Right.
a lot of early stage investing is really about the entrepreneur, right? So he was very heavily indexed on that. Before the meeting, he understood the TAM, right? So you're
Yep.
analyzing the person, you understand the TAM, and then ultimately you have a gut feeling. Do I want to back this person or not? And it's a bit binary in that capacity. Something that I've taken away from that for us at Prairie Pursue, it's truly either a hell yes or it's a no. We
Yep.
have to be very convicted. We're fortunate to see a lot of deal flow, and so we say no to a lot. But we have to be very excited. Doesn't mean you're always going to be right, but we have to be a hell yes in order to move forward.
Yeah, makes sense. Same here. It's hard to turn some deals down, knowing that you never know which one might take off. Everyone sounds great. The pitch decks look good, and all these TAMs look like huge, hockey stick projections. But
Yeah.
over the course of a few years of angel investing, and then starting to see a couple of these like mini cycles of there's the NFT boom right now, there's the AI boom, knowing that having some sort of patience and discretion, and really going with people or just give you that right vibe, and yeah, just being able to sort of say no to certain people is is more of like a discipline that needs to be learned.
Sometimes you get it wrong. Like we
Yeah.
we had the opportunity to invest in Grok, not the Twitter X Grok, but the other Grok.
Right, yeah.
And after we didn't, actually felt pretty good because they missed projections and they had a reforecast. And then they just got bought, 2 weeks ago by NVIDIA for $20 billion cash.
Sure.
And so, sometimes it's hard to to see the signal. And there's a lot of deals right now. Like we have to, you have to pass on some.
Yeah. No, I'm starting to keep track of my anti-portfolio
Yeah.
because I would probably be on a yacht right now if I had made some of these investments that I passed on. But
Interestingly for me, when I sold the agency, if I had just put all of that cash into Shopify stock, I'd be on the boat. I mean, the stock's gone up 100x since. But I never would have known. I did invest in the stock when they went public, like I invested. But when they went from 18 to 100, I figured that was it.
Yeah.
And then the stock split and then went up literally another 100x. I mean, it's been an insane run. So here at RunRate, we're going to do a rapid fire with all of our guests. Short answer, maybe like a sentence-ish for each.
Let's do it.
First up, most meme-worthy job on Wall Street.
Post-MBA investment banking associate.
Classic. Couldn't agree more. Best season for finance memes.
Summer intern season. The people with like their heads cut off, just like not knowing what to do, oversized suits.
That's some of your best content. Okay. A market event that was actually funnier than it gets credit for.
Trump announcing the tariffs. Everyone just shitting their heads like around who was going to get tariffed.
Well, Trump's got a lot of great content. I mean, every week there's something new for content.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Content creators that you compete with that you respect.
There's no competition.
You're the one?
No, I'm not the only one. But I would say I'd love Stad Guy and Super Snake.
Okay, interesting. One thing retail always gets right.
Stocks always go up.
They have been. One company whose valuation is pure storytelling. That's a hot one.
That's a hot one. OpenAI.
Oh, shots fired.
Sorry, Sam.
The most dangerous word in markets.
Leverage.
Yes, agree with that one. Oh, this is good.
It could also be good.
Can be. Got to be careful with leverage. Are we in an AI bubble? Yes or no?
Yes, we are. And it's about to pop.
Okay, well, you heard it here. What's your favorite non-lit account that you follow? It doesn't have to be in your world, just more broadly.
This one's not that rapid fire, but I've been watching a lot of these travel like videos, particularly in like the India and Thai place with some funny sound effects. I'll have to put you onto that.
I like the Indian guy. You talking about that one?
Like making the rocket soda with like a bunch of different
I'm talking about the
ingredients.
guy who's like, you don't got to work too hard. Like, don't worry, it's not worth it. You talking about that guy, or is that a different guy?
No, it's a different one.
That guy's great.
I'll put you on.
What's the hardest part of being lit?
Staying funny.
We've known each other for a long time. It's great, spending more time with you on the pod. I think that investing together has also been a lot of fun. Where fun meets business is where you and I both like to live.
Yeah.
So I think this will be a great extension to that.